Five-star quarterback is back on the plains, and he's not alone.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the book, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened, because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off, and you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
What's up? We're back. Happy Friday. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast, and I'm your host, Charlie Five. I'm ready to get your weekend kicked off, talk about this massive recruiting weekend. Auburn, another weekend, another boatload of super hulking teens visiting the plains, and we're going to discuss it. And do we have one that may be on commit watch? We'll discuss that as well. But we got to give a shout out to our boy Ford Stokes with Active Wealth Management. Look, I'm sure if you're like me, you've got the same 401k that you've had since you started that job way back when. And as you get ready to retire, why not have someone take a look at it for absolutely no cost and make sure it's performing the way it needs to be performing to get you to the finish line? Ford Stokes will do that for you absolutely at no cost. Typically, you're going to pay big bucks to have that done, but Ford Stokes will do it for you absolutely free. Just tell him that I sent you. Tell him War Eagle, what better thing to do, what better person to manage your wealth than another Auburn guy that you can connect with on a very special Auburn level that will love to book out with you as well. So give him a shout. Ford Stokes, Active Wealth Management, retirementresults.com, annuity360.net. He's everywhere. He's like Deion Sanders. It ain't hard to find him. So check him out. Ford Stokes, Active Wealth Management. Another week, another list of super studs visiting the Auburn Tiger campus this weekend, and tons of official visits. And obviously it's headlined by JuJu Lewis, the number one overall player on Rivals, the number one overall player on ESPN, consensus 5-star across the board, would be the highest rated quarterback that Auburn has ever landed. Last year, believe it or not, Cam Coleman was a little bit overall higher on the On3 industry ranking. So he wouldn't be the highest overall rated player ever to come to Auburn. But as far as a quarterback goes, there's no comparison. And he comes in this weekend, and he's going to be surrounded by a ton of Auburn commits. I think you have 5 Auburn commits coming on official visits. And you have probably going to have multiple more come just to sort of hang out as an unofficial visit. This is massive. This is a big moment in this recruitment with JuJu. Auburn cannot afford to continue to wait too much longer. Auburn has to knock it out of the park this weekend. You want to try to be as patient as you can, but again, quarterbacks early in the class mean a ton. It means a ton. It's a safety net. It lets you feel comfortable, surrounding them with the pieces that you need to surround them with. It's attractive to have a quarterback in early. Kids want to rally around their quarterback, and Auburn just can't really afford to wait a whole lot longer without having some kind of idea of which way JuJu is going to go. If you remember last year, I think Walker White was a commit in like February or March, and then that just started the domino effect. We're already in June, and you don't have that quarterback lockdown. So do you want to go much further than this? I don't think you're going to want to go a whole lot further, maybe to possibly Big Cat weekend or a little bit prior, but you don't want to go into the season with not having a quarterback, because then you're going to be in a little bit of a bind. So if this weekend goes well, that's awesome. If it doesn't, I think you could see Auburn pivot to another quarterback pretty quick, and I think that guy's going to be KJ Lacey. But we're not going to talk about that because Auburn has pulled out all the stops this weekend, and they're going to go ahead and just put the full court press on JuJu Lewis. He's been to Auburn like 4 or 5 times this year already. He was just here for a camp. He's been here for multiple times on unofficial visits. the momentum, the impact that this kid would have on this class and this pro. It's not really so much even about if he's going to be an elite player or not, because I think he will be, but just the buzz and just the recruiting momentum and what could possibly build around him is what could be so huge. I mean, you got guys, you're already leading for a guy like Caleb Cunningham. Had a guy come in last week, Travis Smith. You've been talking to a lot of these big time wide receivers. If you can get a JuJu Lewis to go ahead and flip and pull the trigger and get in the class and start recruiting for Auburn, oh man, you could see a tidal wave of momentum. And I think that's the goal. I think that's the goal this weekend. Auburn is in a very, very competitive. I think they're in a very, very competitive NIL situation with JuJu right now. I think they understand that this kid's going to bring in demand, not demand, just like, hey, you got to give me this. But I think just his character, just his person, his personality, his celebrity. I mean, he's sort of a celebrity. It will demand, the higher NIL price tags. And I think Auburn is willing to go to battle, from what I understand, willing to go to battle and do whatever it takes on that end. Now, do you have the other pieces? Do you have the ancillary pieces to be able to make it happen? Do you have the system? Do you have the receivers? Do you have the offensive line? It seems like you've sort of put those out there in front of him to say, look, we've got young receivers that you're going to be able to throw to. Look, we brought in we got 5 or 6 offensive linemen coming in this class, all highly rated guys. We're going after some of the top running backs in the class. You already have a young, loaded running back room, but we're going to go after even more. You got tight ends. We got all kinds of offensive weapons for you to be able to excel. And I mean, after this year, you're going to have a very favorable, the most possible favorable quarterback race position that you can possibly have. I mean, you have no incumbent starter that you have to unseat. It's when we've talked about having a truly wide open quarterback battle, and is that ideal or is it not? This will be the most wide open quarterback battle in the offseason, maybe in recent Auburn. I mean, not recent Auburn history, from as long as I can remember. It always seemed like there was a clear-cut next guy, and I'm not sure that there is a clear-cut next guy after Peyton Thorne. You would say it's possibly the number 2 guy, which would be Hank Brown, but you got Walker White that's a freshman, that's a highly rated stud. Well, what happens to his development after 1 year? And then you got JuJu Lewis, who is about the number 1 player on multiple recruiting sites, who looks almost like ready-made to be able to play at the next level. Is he already at that level? So you got so many favorable options. You got Hugh Freeze running the offense now. And if you put a good product on the field, that's going to make that selling point even higher. I just feel like Auburn's in a really good spot. If there was ever a spot where Auburn had all of the sort of alignment and all of the stars aligning to be able to land a player of this caliber at quarterback, this would be the year. All of the aspects that I feel like a quarterback in this day and age, Auburn seems to check a ton of boxes. It's a program on the rise. A lot of young studs that are going to be able to surround this kid. Favorable skill positions, favorable offensive line situation, favorable, in theory, favorable offensive system situation. You just got to go and get it. You just got to go and land it. And I know Hugh Freeze is putting a massive emphasis on this kid. And I can only imagine how amazing this visit's going to be. I can only imagine how the bells and the whistles and everything that's going to be going on surrounding JuJu Lewis. It's going to be, I'd love to be a fly on the wall to see it. So, they're going to go all out. He's going to be here. It's big momentum, big momentum, big momentum opportunity this weekend with JuJu Lewis. I don't think it's the end of the world if if you don't really get a good signal one way or the other. You still need to wait it out and push a little bit further towards Big Cat weekend. I get it, but you don't have a ton more time after this weekend. You gotta make it happen this weekend. So let's see what happens, JuJu Lewis. But JuJu is not alone. JuJu's not alone in studs that are visiting this weekend, and they're guys at very big positions of need and guys that you want really, really badly. The first one, Daryl Duke Johnson. God almighty, what does that sound? What that name sounds like a linebacker. Give me Daryl Duke Johnson. Every year, some kid named Daryl Duke Johnson at middle linebacker, and I'm going to be fired up. That's got to get you fired up. I mean, that just sounds like a prototype middle linebacker name. But no, he's committed to Alabama. Auburn pushed for him really hard. He's from Eastman, Georgia, Dodge County. He's listed as an athlete, but I think linebacker is going to be his position at the next level. I think DJ Durkin, we talked about DJ Durkin yesterday, has sort of singled this kid out. I want this kid as one of my linebackers. I'm going to do whatever I can to get him. When you look at this guy and you look at Elijah Menendez, Durkin loves both of those kids, and he's going to do whatever he can to go ahead and lock those guys up. And Duke's shown a lot of he's not shown that the door is completely closed with Auburn. Obviously, with the visit this weekend, they're going to try to go and make a big impact. And can you get him to come back after this weekend for Big Cat weekend, which is shaping up to be one of the greatest recruiting weekends that could ever have been at Auburn. I think he's actually already sort of committed to come back for Big Cat weekend. Maybe not officially. We'll see if we can get it officially locked in after this weekend. But Daryl Duke Johnson, that's a name to watch out for. You're going to hear a lot of buzz about him this weekend. Another one of my favorite players in the class, Eric Winters from Enterprise. You had Zion Grady, his teammate, I think, that came in this past weekend or came in at some point this week. He's a high 4-star edge. This is your hybrid safety linebacker kid who's a freak athlete, even played some Wildcat quarterback in high school. Hugh wants this guy. This recruitment reminds me a lot of Joseph Phillips from last year. This is an in-state kid that Hugh wants so badly, but for whatever reason, it was kind of hard to go ahead and get him to pull the trigger. Georgia snuck in on Joe Phillips to the point where a lot of people thought there was crystal balls going in that Joe Phillips was going to commit to Georgia. And then at the last minute, Hugh put the clamps on him, gets him in the class, and Joe Phillips is obviously going to be a star moving forward at edge. And I think it's going to be hard to keep him off the field this year. This recruitment is very similar. You've had Georgia sort of sneaking in there, trying to make an impact, trying to get a foot in the door, and they've done that. They've been able to sort of creep up to where they have a really good shot. But so the timing of this visit could not be more important, because I think he's eyeing sort of an early to mid-July announcement, which kind of could bode well for Auburn. Because you're getting a visit in right before that, and then you have the Big Cat weekend right after the fact. So if you get Eric Winters and you couple him with Eric, the Bryce Diaz that you just got committed, those are kind of the same-ish type player. Bryce is a little bit bigger. He may be more of a true linebacker, but you've got some freak-ish type hybrid players that can play multiple positions and make impacts at multiple levels. And I think that is the goal. That's what DJ Durkin wants out of this defense. I want guys I can put anywhere. I want multiple pieces that are interchangeable that I can put out there and be able to make plays in different ways. Eric Winters, they love this kid, and he could not be visiting at a better time. You land any one of those three, Julian Lewis, obviously Julian Lewis, but Daryl Johnson, Eric Winters, if you flip Daryl Johnson or you land in Eric Winters at this point in time, for now, those will be your highest rated players in your class. So big momentum opportunity again with Eric Winters, maybe you already have the lead a little bit and you go ahead and you close the door and get ready for a, maybe, have a little flow of commitments leading up the big cat, and maybe he can be one of those. So Eric Winters, Julian Lewis obviously is a big part of this weekend, but Eric Winters could be, a 1B as far as importance goes for this class, because I know Hugh wants to make a big splash in state, and Eric Winters would definitely help do that. You got several commits. We talked about commits. Caleb Falk, he's been a stalwart in this class. He's taken some visits, but he's been an Auburn guy the whole time. You've even had him at, I think he went on a Florida visit, and Florida basically said, ain't nobody flipping that kid. Devin Williams, one of another early commit, 4-star defensive back. Carday Smith, one of those 4-star offensive linemen of that massive offensive line class that you got locked in. Ryan Gee, tight end, that's been another consistent piece of this class. And then Dante Core, one of the more recent commits, guy they've evaluated really high at a Fort Walton Beach cornerback that they really like. They took him early, and so you obviously can tell the value that they have on him based off that. So there's a couple of more commits, or a couple of more guys that are visiting, but the last one that I think is a very intriguing one to watch. And I'm close to, I would say you might want to go ahead and put this guy on commit watch, because I think his visit was moved, which typically we saw that with Bryce Dees. We've seen this a couple of times where visits get moved up to a weekend, and then you see some action, maybe a commit shortly thereafter. Herbert Scroggins is one of those guys. I think he had a visit scheduled later in June or later in July. He goes ahead and moves it up to this weekend. Very, very intriguing prospect. He's out of Savannah, Georgia. He goes to the same high school that Holden Garner went to. 4-star on Rivals. He's unranked on ESPN, high 3-star on 3 and 247 Sports. But this kid plays edge in high school. You got to have kids like this in the class. Okay. You can go for your headliners. If you need to bring in two edge type players, you got your headliner in Zion Grady that you're pushing for, and you're bringing in other guys like Isaiah Gibson, 5-star guys that you just, swing for the fences on. But you got to have your guys that are those high eval, high NFL trait type players that you've really identified that you can bring in that are willing to develop. And this kid is one of them. Again, he's a 4-star on one side. He's valued pretty highly across the board. I mean, he's got some really good offers. Miami's offered him, USC, Alabama, Texas A&M. So he's got some really, really impressive offers. He's moved his visit up, 6'3", 220, incredibly long. His arms are so long, raw but very gifted as far as his athletic potential. And I think this is I got my eye on this one. Again, when you move your visit up and you come in a little bit sooner than you initially, had scheduled, it may mean you want to go ahead and see if you can close the door on this kid, get him in the class, because you need kids like this. You need solid dudes. You just need solid dudes that you can add in and that are willing to come in and compete. And I think this kid's one of them. Good speed, good size, good frame. Probably could play 6'3", 240-ish with how long he is. I think easily could play 6'3", 240, be a very similar size to, a Jalen McLeod, not quite as fast, or a Kieron Crawford, very similar size type players. I really like this kid. His film's really good. He's very disruptive, makes a lot of plays. Herbert Scroggins is one I think you might want to put on commit watch. Again, they typically don't commit on the visit, but if Auburn's sort of trying to build something, as far as build some kind of it seems like we're trying to build some recruiting crescendo. You had 3 commits in 6 days. You're closing in on Big Cat weekend. You bring this guy in a little bit earlier than he was originally scheduled. Could you want to go ahead and push for this guy and then sort of, have a little bit a little bit more, another one next week, or whatever, sort of building your way up to Big Cat Weekend. I would be fired up if this kid kicked off that, that commit train. So it's really not even kick off at this point. Now he's just jumping on the train. So Herbert Scroggins, let's keep an eye on him because I think he could be one to watch. Huge weekend. If I were you, I would get a subscription to On3's message board. I'd find Cole Pinkston's recruiting thread, official visit thread, and I would refresh that sucker all weekend because he's going to be on campus more than likely, and he's going to be updating. It's one of the best ways to kind of keep up with all the action keep up with all the action over the weekend. So I really appreciate it, guys. A great week. A lot of action, and I don't think it's slowing down anytime. This is the most fun recruiting. Well, there is nothing more fun. There's nothing more fun to talk about. There's nothing more fun to hear about, in my opinion, than Auburn recruiting at a really high level. And it seems like that's what they're doing. And I'm hoping that the momentum, it really gets kicked off here after this visit. And you really can make an impact on JuJu Lewis's JuJu Lewis's recruitment. You can make an impact on Daryl Duke Johnson, maybe get him closer to maybe want to looking at it, at least open it up, decommit, come back for Big Cat Weekend, see what you got to offer, make a big impact on Eric Winters. Got to get that kid, got to have that kid. And then Herbert Scroggins, among some other kids that are visiting, but those four are the top ones that I think Auburn's looking to really make an impact with, really push for. So stay locked into Twitter, stay locked into, message boards, whatever, because there's going to be a lot of action this weekend. But I really appreciate it. And what we're going to do is on Monday, we're going to recap it all. So we're going to recap everything that goes down this weekend. And hopefully we got some fun stuff to talk about on Monday. So guys, great week. Another great week of daily shows, another great week of content. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. I covet your listens. I'll covet your comments. Those are so much fun. It's so much fun to conversate, have some dialogue back and forth. So like this video, subscribe to this channel. That way you're alerted when we get back rolling next Monday. Follow me on Twitter, _Charlie_5. If you like golf, you can check out our golf podcast on Wednesdays, the Dad Bod Golf Pod. I'm pretty much everywhere. Message boards, Discords, wherever you want to talk Auburn, you can find me. And I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Y'all have a great weekend, and let's see what happens. And hopefully we can make a big splash with the visitors. So y'all have a great weekend. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.